Dee Ann Warner had been telling the people closest to her that she was finally leaving her husband. Then, on a Sunday morning in April of 2021, she walked out of her own life and vanished. No sign of her, no trace. And for the next 3 years, the police had nothing. No body, no crime scene, nothing they could put on anyone. Here is the part that should stop you cold. The entire time they searched the country for Dee Warner, she had never once left her own farm.
Dee Ann Warner was arrested in connection to Dee's death, according to family members. He is now charged with accessory to...
What was waiting on that property would take a welder to open. To understand how a woman ends up hidden on her own land, you have to start with the one decision she had already made. Dee Ann Warner was 52 years old, and she was the kind of person an entire family is built around. Her daughter would later stand in a courtroom and call her the foundation, the one everyone leaned on. She ran a business. She ran a household. She was the dependable one, the fixed point, the person other people organized their week around, which is the first thing that makes this case scream. A woman like that does not slip quietly out of her own life. People notice the second she is gone, and by the spring of 2021, Dee had reached the end of her marriage. She was done. She had told friends, she had told family, she had said it plainly to the people who knew her best. She was leaving Dale. Hold on to that, because in a case like this, the question is never just what happened to her. The question is, who had a reason to make sure she never made it out the door? She never made it out the door. That Sunday in April, Dee does not show up where she is supposed to be. She does not answer. For a woman whose whole life was being reliable, the silence is wrong instantly, and her family feels it in their chest before they can prove a thing. They report her missing. And then this case does the cruelest thing a case can do. It goes quiet. No Dee, no sighting, no trace of a woman who, days earlier, had been planning the rest of her life. Her brother, Greg Hardy, becomes one of the voices that will not let her name go dark. He pushes, he pleads with the public. He asks the one question nobody can answer: if Dee really walked away from her own life, then where did she go? But suspicion is not evidence, and for anyone who feared the worst, there was one enormous problem. There was no body.
Was officially charged with. Earlier Sunday afternoon, the jail confirmed with WTOL 11 that Jaron posted bond.
In the American legal system, that is supposed to be the wall that protects you. No body, no crime scene, no physical proof. It is one of the hardest things in all of criminal law to charge a person with murder when you cannot produce the victim. Investigators came to focus on the person whose entire life would change the most the day Dee walked out, her husband. But focus is not proof. A hunch does not convict anyone. And so the family waited. Birthdays with an empty chair, holiday after holiday, years of asking the same question into the same silence, trapped in that unbearable space between everyone knows and nobody can prove. So the prosecution did something that almost never happens. They charged him anyway. Before they had ever found her, they built a murder case against Dale Warner with no body to show a jury, betting that Dee was out there somewhere and that they would find her. In August of 2024, they found out exactly where. More than 3 years after she vanished, Michigan State Police walked onto the Warner property, the family's own land.
Warner was 52 years old when she disappeared in 2021. She was found nearly 3 years later, sealed in an anhydrous tank on a secluded property owned by her husband, Dale Warner.
And they opened a sealed anhydrous ammonia tank, a piece of farm equipment, welded shut. Dee Ann Warner was inside it. She had been there the whole time. Every flyer, every public plea. Every day her brother begged the world to keep looking. She had never left the property they walked past, sealed in metal, a few steps from where her family stood. The judge who later saw the evidence did not reach for a gentle word. He called it a crude tomb. For more than 3 years, that is what it was. But finding her was not the same as proving who put her there. And to do that, the prosecution had to show a jury something far colder than a missing wife. They had to show them a plan. Their case was specific, and the jury would ultimately agree with all of it. They argued the marriage hit its breaking point the moment Dee made clear she wanted a divorce, and that Dale Warner killed her, and then went to work erasing her, that he hid her body, that he used farm machinery from their own operation to move her, that he welded her remains inside that ammonia tank and left her on the land. And they did not just say it. They put a welding expert on the stand.
Expected to be the last prosecution witness. We learned that neither Dee Warner's purse, phone, or passport have.
They put on the lead Michigan State Police detective who had worked this for years. And they took the jurors out of the courtroom and drove them to the scene so 12 people could stand in the exact spot and see it for themselves. And then the case widened in a way almost no family ever survives. In March of 2025, Dale Warner's own son was arrested in connection with the case. This was no longer one man and a terrible secret. The question in that courtroom had become whether a husband could be convicted of erasing his own wife on his own land with his own equipment. The defense fought every inch of it.
And the obvious answer from the people's side is he put her in that safe, which is in the spray barn, which is where.
Dale Warner's attorneys argued the whole case was speculation and theory, that a failing marriage is not proof of murder, that suspicion is not the same as evidence. Through his lawyers, Dale Warner maintains he is innocent. He pleaded not guilty, and his team challenged every piece, which is the right of every defendant, and the burden never once shifts off the state. But after weeks of testimony, the jury heard all of it. The marriage that was ending. The Sunday, she vanished. The 3 years of nothing. The charge with no body. And then, the tank.
Her body later found in a fertilizer tank in 2024. Dale Warner had been arrested before that in 2023, and now we got to this trial. Just about 9 hours of deliberation for the jurors. You might recall from last week we told you there was a medical emergency.
On March 10th of 2026, the jury came back. They found Dale Warner, 58 years old, guilty of second-degree murder and guilty of tampering with evidence in the death of his wife, Dee. When the verdict was read, her brother Greg Hardy stepped out to the cameras. After years of refusing to let her be forgotten, the family finally had the one thing they had been denied, an answer. If this is hitting you the way it hits me, if you believe a woman who decides to leave should be able to walk out the door and into the rest of her life.
It came very unexpectedly. And we always had suspicions of there being an accomplice. We just didn't know exactly who. We never wanted to name anybody, obviously.
Take 1 second right now and subscribe. Because the sentencing is where the court said out loud what this case really was. On May 7th of 2026, Dale Warner came back to be sentenced in front of Judge Michael Olsever. The judge did not soften a word of it. He spoke about the extreme nature of what was done, that Dee's remains had been welded into a tank and left in what he called a crude tomb for more than 3 years. Then he handed it down, 60 years for the murder of Dee and 10 more years for tampering with evidence, for the hiding of her body, one sentence stacked on the other. 70 years. For a 58-year-old man, that is a number that ends in a prison cell. Dee's family was in that courtroom. Her daughter spoke about the mother who was the foundation of everything, and for them the sentence landed as something close to relief, not happiness. There is no happiness in a story that ends in a tank, but the long, exhausting weight of justice finally coming down. Dale Warner's side did not accept it. His defense maintains his innocence, and Warner has said he intends to appeal. For now, the conviction stands. So strip it all away, the tank, the trial, the 3 years, the welds. What you are left with is a woman who simply wanted out. Dee Ann Warner had decided to leave. She had told people. She was standing at the edge of a brand new life. And the cruelty at the dead center of this case is the distance between that decision and what was done to her, the few steps between a woman planning her freedom and a sealed tank on the family farm. Her family did not get those years. Her daughter lost the foundation she leaned on. Her brother spent more than 3 years fighting to make the world keep looking, when the answer was closer than anyone wanted to believe. A jury has said who was responsible. The court has called it exactly what it is. But the name you should carry out of here is not Dale Warner's. Dee Ann Warner was 52 years old. She was a mother. She was the foundation of her family, and she was about to be free. Say her name. Dee Ann Warner. I am Carson Morgan. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.